My name is Ben Stapley, and it's great to have you with us for these monthly conversations with church leaders. Each month, we'll discuss a different aspect of creating incredible worship experiences. Today, we are discussing first impressions. We'll have an honest conversation about what is working, what isn't working, and future developments. Before we jump in, I'm going to have the panel introduce themselves.
Hello, Ben. My name is Christopher Harris. Thank you for having me on today with you. I'm the executive pastor at Crossover Church in Tampa, Florida, and also the founder of diversechurchjobs.com, a platform that enables and empowers people of color to find quality ministry jobs here in the kingdom. So I'm happy to be on with you today.
And then Cliff.
Yeah, my name is Cliff. Happy to be here with you guys. I am the online pastor at my church, Living Streams, in Phoenix, Arizona. I love these conversations. I love talking about diversities too as well. I'm just happy to be here.
My name is Jimmy, and I serve as the creative arts pastor at Spanish River Church in Boca Raton, and I oversee Weekend Experience and our online campus right now that we just started and because of COVID, and just so excited to learn from you guys and get some wisdom from you all.
Hey everybody, my name is Romel Magno. I'm the campus experience pastor over at Salvic Church in California. Pretty much I oversee the experience from street to seat, from people, places, and things, of events, guest services, and all that great stuff. So I'm super excited just to have this conversation with these guys and continue just talking about what does that first impression look like for our guests these days. So excited to be here.
Here we go. My name is Sammy Flores, and I'm the Director of Guest Experience and Connections here at Christ Fellowship in Miami. And so basically my role is to make sure that we have an awesome guest experience, the same from the street to the seat, and then also with the follow-up, and which is our connection process for next first-time guests.
That's awesome. Like I said at the beginning, all-star panel here discussing today. And the best thing is all these guys have a heart, a passion to talk about first impressions, making sure that when someone comes to their church, to their campus, they have a great experience all the way through. And so I love the fact that each of these leaders has a passion for that. So guys, I want to talk first of all about online. Let's talk about we're going to talk about what isn't working. I want to learn through our failures. We're going to talk about that. But let's first of all talk about what is working. Why doesn't one of you jump in and tell me what have you found to be working for you while you've been exclusively online?
Well, I'll just jump on in, Ben. One of the things that I noticed that was really, really a powerful moment was I started asking myself, okay, so what have we learned since we've been in this COVID experience? And one of the things I realized then when I started thinking about the question that you were asking is that really the first impressions, as we would all agree, really begins with your website. And so one of the things that's really been going really, really great for us is that our front door has really just been energized. It's relevant looking, it's easy to navigate, it's branded properly. And then our worship services really took on a whole different complexion. We just really started elevating the things that we were doing, because most of us probably were always recording or broadcasting our messages for the people really that were in the room. But then we had to realize that we were broadcasting and recording these things for the online audience. And so we just elevated the content, and probably the biggest thing was the cinematic view of our services, just to make them more engaging. That's been huge. And then for us, our online social media platforms just really became alive. And we took our guest services directors from all of our campuses and hopped them on as chat hosts. And that was amazing. That really, really took on a whole different complexion. And then our onboarding process, or for our members or for our new guests, which is our CF 101. Before COVID, I would have never considered doing online teaching of our membership process. But we rebranded it and launched it, and it was just really, really a great shot in the arm for us. And so I just kind of, for me personally, just took on this whole different experience, because I want to be in the room engaging people, but then going online was really, 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 it's been really awesome.
That's great. I
Yeah,
think that's helpful. So, yeah, Christopher, take it over.
yeah, I was just gonna say that, there's two things really that I think that have worked for us, and it's gonna sound really simple, but I think for us it's been really powerful. Number one is just authenticity, right? Just really be who we are. I think as we've been in this pandemic, and really at our church we've been saying that there's two pandemics, right? There's a pandemic around COVID-19, but there's also this pandemic around justice. And so with both of those going on at the same time, I've found that there are many churches that have been struggling with their identity and struggling with trying to be authentic to who they are and trying to recreate an experience that doesn't match who they are. So we've just settled in on really being who we are and being authentic to that. And then I think secondly, we like most churches, probably we do a lot of planning in advance and try to schedule your calendar out and, work on graphics and all those kinds of things. And we really just try to make the ramp or the on ramp for all of our systems to be much shorter so that we can be much more adaptable to the moment. I think what I've found online is churches that have sort of tried to stay with their same plan and not adapt have really sounded very tone deaf to both the COVID realities and the justice realities. So those are the two things that I would add to the conversation.
Cliff, you got something?
Okay, yeah, I thought Jimmy was going.
I was, you go for it, man.
What haven't worked for us is, I'll let you know that what haven't worked for us was keeping our regular same services that we do every Sunday. So we learned that the first couple of weeks, people weren't being engaged with our 70-minute services. So we decided to cut our 70-minute services into 50 minutes. And once we kept them at 50 minutes, we saw growth. We saw people staying online more. We saw engaging more. We started using, especially on Facebook. Facebook has a tool that you can engage your audience a little bit better. So that, in that perspective, what hasn't worked was keeping our same, Sunday 70-minute services. And then we were changing rooms. So we didn't do services inside the sanctuary every Sunday. We built a studio where it was more a little bit intimate. We had services outside, those kind of things to keep it fresh and new, so people can stay engaged. Like, because when you're watching something on the computer, you kind of you stray away, you get distractions and things like that. So we found it very, very, very helpful that keeping 50 minutes and changing sceneries every now and then.
That's great. Let me jump in. I want to hear from the rest of you guys. But Sam, I love the fact that you're doing the online membership class. That's incredible. I've seen that firsthand. Well done to pivot there. Christopher, I like the fact that you guys are shortening those on ramps, right? Churches usually be a part of the 10-week something class. I love the fact that you're making that shorter because the people's attention spans are a lot. You don't have that captive audience anymore online. I love that you've done that. And let me hit on that, Cliff. You've talked about shortening your experience. What was it before and what is it now? And I'd love to hear that from the rest of the guys as well. How have you shortened your experience just in terms of what it was before and what it is now?
We used to have 70-minute services. So, we love worship. So our worship was a little bit longer. And so we shortened the worship part from 24 minutes. And now we got about 16 to 18 minutes. We shortened the talk a little bit from 35 minutes to about 25 minutes. And then we started hosting more at the end. In the beginning. So we got people talking and engaging the services before services even begin. So that's pretty much what we did. We took that time, we cut the time from the worship and the talk and added a little bit more in the beginning so we could do a little bit more engaging. So that's been really, really helpful. We saw our numbers just explode once we started doing that.
Yeah, same for us. Our services were about 65, 70 minutes, maybe about 22, 24 minutes of worship and maybe about 35 minutes for a sermon with some host moments there. And so about 65 to 70, and then we shortened it down to 45 to 50. And that it was a cut because our preachers love to preach. So instead of preaching instead of preaching a 30-minute message, now they're preaching a 20-minute message. And instead of 5 songs, now we're down to 3. And so everyone's making cuts. We want to make the service to have the most impact, the most powerful 45-minute service that they'll tune into, and just want to minister to our people. And we found really it's just times aren't normal, so we're really wrestling with, like, do we provide church as normal just to add some normalcy? But we decided that it probably best serve our church well to match their context. And so we tried a lot of different things. And I think every week we tried something different, but shortening the service really, really helped.
What about at Saddleback? How have you guys changed your times?
Yeah, so Pastor Rick Warren is our preacher. And I'm okay to say this. We didn't shorten anything. It's about the same. And that's all good. I mean, our engagement has been great, honestly. What worked for us in the first impressions world really was, I think, our worship, 100%. What we found, and we still have not recorded in our worship center sanctuary at all. It's been at home. It's been now a little bit more outside in some of the beautiful hills we have out here. But it's always individuals, and then they're literally creating this amazing experience online. We've had an online presence for years, but worship is always whatever you saw on stage. What we've seen and we've heard is that there's this intimacy that's different. The engagement that I'm actually seeing their face right here versus a crowd or from further away. You're really getting to know them, and you're feeling. It's weird to say this. You get chills watching worship online, which is crazy to think before. So I think that has been a great first impression for us, because it's not what everyone would see. Again, if you watched sometime during the week, you wouldn't even get the worship. You just get the message, right? So that's for sure has changed for us. And we started right away an email called Saddleback at Home. Pretty much that changed as well. And there was always information on there that I think that people would never normally read, right? Whether it was info just on our church, or now a lot of it is just on what COVID has to say about certain things in our government and our state and where we're at. So that's pretty much a Monday to Friday delivery, which is different, and I think been a huge impact. And the last thing I'll say is that we pivoted probably by week 2 or 3 of, like, hey, text this if you want prayer, text this number if you want to be part of a small group. And then I added text this for first timers, whatever. But and if you accepted Christ, those are the textings we added quickly, and they were huge. We didn't think it'd get that big for us. So prayer obviously was the biggest one, and each week is getting I don't know exact numbers, but each week we're getting very consistent in the hundreds for sure of just texting the prayer. So those things have. Our online pastor was on video, but it wasn't doing any of the teaching, any of the engagement that way. So that changed for us for sure. And we know that going back, a lot of these things we can keep, so.
Yeah, our services were probably right at about an hour and a half for each service. And prior to the pandemic, we did 3 services a Sunday. So we initially, of course, we did shorten it a little bit. But our people didn't necessarily complain about the length of our services, so that wasn't a big issue for us. So we're really down. We average now between 50 to 60 minutes, so we maybe chopped off about 20 minutes at various points to it. From day one, we've pre-produced the show. Or pre-produced the service. We didn't want to record live or do it live. We wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity to do some post-production things in there. So we tried to make sure that we do that. One of the things that we found to be very engaging for our audience is that we literally, every single week, we record in a different location. So we, last Sunday when I had the opportunity to preach, I actually did portions of it in one part of our city where there's a lot of partying that happens. In another segment of the message, I did it right in front of our football stadium. So, just like when people are watching on a weekly basis, they don't know where we're going to end up. They don't know where we're going to be taping from, or where we're going to be producing the show from, or producing the service from. So that's one of the things that we found to be very engaging, with our audience. And again, we've just tried to be very relevant to thinking through what are people thinking about, what questions do they have, and we've literally tried to answer those questions on Sundays. So, yeah.
That's good. That's good. Let me. It's interesting, Saddleback, that you guys are using multiple texts. And I don't know if it. Here, let's be honest. No one's cracked the nut with a connection card, right? Like now that we've gone away with physical ones, like our retention is much lower. So no one's. So we tried a URL, just cfmiami.org/connect. That was getting somewhat traction. We went to the text and we just had it one text, CF Miami to 313131. And then when you went there, you had the option to give. Join a small group, whatever we were pushing that week were the major options there. That's interesting that you're using different ones during different seasons of the time. That's cool. The one thing I would say, encourage churches. I was at a church recently, and they had text Fellowship Church of Our Lord Jesus Christ to 289576, and I was like, "What are you doing? How in the world are people going to remember that information?" So just keep it simple, people. Keep it simple. Jimmy, anything else that you want to close out this conversation about things that are working with first impressions while you're exclusively online?
Yeah, so I'm sure many other churches found themselves in the same boat, but we didn't really have a vision for our online campus at all, or our online services. I mean, they were mostly convenience, like, hey, if you're sick or if you're on vacation somewhere, just tune in, and that was really it. Obviously now that we're exclusively online, we had to make some shifts and really honestly create a vision from scratch for it. Like, what are we trying to do with our people online? And when it came to guest engagement, one thing we did, and it's not revolutionary, other churches do this definitely better than we do, but it's just a pre-service host moment. Really small. I mean, just maybe even a minute, maybe 45 seconds, but just a moment, 5 minutes before service, 10 minutes before service, just engaging those that have logged on early, letting them know, hey, we know you're here. We love you. We're praying for you. Here's your next step. Introducing our host for the weekend, whoever that is. Could be our kids director or one of our pastors, but just introducing the host and just engaging those people. That for us was really huge.
That's great. Guys, let's pivot. It's the word. I think we should do, like, there should be a taboo game and we buzz every time someone says that word. We'll try not to say it anymore the rest of the conversation. One of our values at Christ Fellowship is humility is our posture. We like to humble ourselves so God can exalt himself. And so I will lead the way here. The next phase of our conversation is talking about what didn't work. And the reason I love this conversation is not because this is a shame game or we're just throwing ourselves under a bus, but we learn the most oftentimes through our failures or through someone else's failures. It helps us avoid something as well. So I want to learn, I'll admit one of our mistakes, but then I want to hear something that you guys missed early on while you were online with first impressions. For us, it was our hosts. We did not give them directions. We told them, you're hosting this service on Facebook or on Chop. And it was great. And it was either crickets or they would go on a political rant, and neither were good for us, or probably for you guys. And so we realized that we needed to come up with some boilerplate information that they can give out and some direction to guide the conversation. So we missed the ball there. And then the other thing too, that's really, we finally turned the corner recently, that our host on Chop, if you're on that platform, you'll realize you can say your name and do a photo of yourself. People would have the oddest names about themselves. It would be like, big guy, or a chief, or like it wasn't the actual name, or be a photo of their cat. And so we're like, no, use your name and use a photo of yourself, because we want to connect people to you. So like it's silly, but those small things we were figuring out as we went. What are some missteps that you guys experienced?
Yeah, I'll jump in. One for us was this. This is going to sound really basic, probably for some people as well, but in a very real way, we didn't anticipate how every element of the service would translate while people are sitting on the couch at home, right? Like it may look well when you're in a building together, right? If you do something or make a joke or put a video together, but it's going to look radically different when you do it and everybody is online, right? And everybody is virtual. So that was a misstep that we've tried to navigate a little bit better. I think secondly, for one period of time, I would say maybe about a month, we literally just tried to keep everything stable and the same, right? Here's what we offer on Sundays. Let's keep it that, and our people sort of quickly rejected that. So we were like, okay, we need to be able to be responsive enough, back to another question and answer that I provided earlier, but just be responsive enough to say, okay, you know what, this has run its course. Even if it's only been 2 weeks or 3 weeks, this has run its course. Let's do something different and change it up, right? The order of the services, or who speaks, or how we do certain things, or just whatever that may look like. Even how we do worship didn't need to look the same. A couple Sundays we did worship, there were no intelligent lighting. There was no multiple people. We used one person, and so just varying it up and changing it up a little bit. Last thing I would say, and this one was a real big one for us, and that was at one point, as we were getting to the place of planning and adjusting and updating everything, we really kind of went insular, where we were making decisions based on our preferences as a staff and as a team. And that was a huge mistake, right? Just really, really anticipating what are people thinking and doing when they see this on Sunday, sitting on their couch at home and they're in their pajamas, they haven't had breakfast yet, just whatever they may look like, right? And so those are 3 things that I think we dropped the ball on, that we've had to kind of make sure we pivot on pretty quickly. Oops, I said the word, sorry.
Who else?
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think I would.
Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, I think I would also agree with Ben. The hosting, the chat hosting was a bigger deal than what I realized, and so we put together. Ben helped us out in putting together really a great best practices, and that was super helpful for us. Another thing that I felt like wasn't working, of course, was how do we engage our first time guests? We'd ask them to come to the Next Steps booth at all of our campuses, but all of a sudden we don't have that, and so we did put some things in place, a 6-week follow-up process that is all automated, and that's been good. Most of it's automated. There's some physical things that we do, but that's really helped. However, that was something that I was really scrambling, trying to figure out what the best way to do that, and still kind of navigating that. And then although moving to our CF 101, our membership and orientation process, to online, what didn't work was I thought that we would have more people engaged. We did initially, but I think we've gotten a little bit of that, internet or online, exhaustion. And so we're not getting as many people involved as I would like. But those are some things that I feel like just hadn't worked as well as I would have hoped that they would have.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it earlier for the connection card. That was again, right away, because of the season. It was all about prayer, get connected to a small group. Those are and obviously, do you accept the Christ? Those are the big ones. And then for us, the connection was for first timers. I oversee that as well. And it was like, Lake Forest, one new person. We've like quadrupled our numbers. Oh, we have one new person, and week to week, I'm like, can you give me all the campuses total? Yeah, 7. I was like, oh my gosh. And so I started fighting for, can we add another text? And we finally got that 2 weeks ago. And so hopefully I'll see some numbers growth there. But that was a big one. Again, we've been online before. We've had online for a while. But our online pastor said, yeah, it's never a big number for us. I mean, because most people are watching it because, like you said earlier, they couldn't make it. They didn't make it. Something came up. That's been most of our audience, or across the globe. So that's still a misstep. We're still trying to figure. I mean, I changed some of our processes, but it doesn't matter what the process has changed, because if I'm not getting anybody clicking that or texting that, it's been hard. So so we even added in the host messaging at the end now as well, which is great. So I'm hoping that helps too. But I know there's new people out there. There's no way we quadrupled our numbers with the same people. So, so that's been the biggest misstep, I think, for us of learning and still trying to figure out, is that new here person, whether it's really the first time, second or third, just anybody who's been new, we want to connect with them. So that's been the hardest, and for us for sure.
Yeah, I think for us, that's actually really encouraging to hear, because we had the same issue with all of our digital connect card stuff too. It started out okay and then kind of fizzled out. A lot of our next step stuff has been very similar. You're right, Sammy, it's probably a lot of that digital online fatigue. But I feel like for us, the biggest misstep, and it came out, I think, week 1 of COVID, was our online platform. Just the way that we were streaming service, the way that we had embedded our player on our website. What we're using right now, man, it's just doesn't encourage any kind of interaction or anything like that. And our chat feature is, you can't even see it. And so, the bulk of our audience is watching on our website, not on Facebook Live, but Facebook Live is really our only way of actually interacting with the people that are watching. And so it's been a long fight, but we are about 2 weeks away of going to the church online platform. At least gives us some sort of opportunity to have a chat feature, to have some scripture embedded in. And for us, that was huge. Again, we had no vision behind our online campus or our online service at all. And so now we're having to do that out of necessity. And so that for us was something that didn't work, is just the way that we had our services embedded in our website.
So Jimmy, I was going to say something just really quick to you. If you can get onto Church Online, man, that has really been revolutionary for us. It really has been. And so, and if you need to, man, our online guy down here, Pastor Ray, he can sure, give you some encouragement there. So, but yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Whatever you can, that would be awesome. Yep.
Cool. Thank you for that.
Yeah, Ben, if I could add to just one more thing that I just thought about as well. One of the things that we also had to acknowledge and realize, even in terms of the virtual and the online space, and this is a hard one in the ministry world for many people, but that is the acknowledgement that everybody is going to engage differently, because in real life, they have different personalities, right? Not everybody is an extrovert. Not everybody likes to go out of their way to talk to groups of people and, all those kinds of things. And, our pastor is very relational. Several members of our team is very relational. I'm a little bit more of an ambivert, in that kind of way. But I think many churches, as I've observed, not just our church, but even other churches, we use language that sort of forces people to engage. And I don't know that we always were aware that if you're an introvert or a little bit more reserved, you're going to engage differently virtually than someone who's just extroverted and needs that relational fuel to kind of be able to thrive. So just for what that's worth, I want to throw that out there as well.
That's helpful. Now, Cliff, I know you guys didn't do anything wrong at Living Streams Church, but if you did do something wrong with your first impression experience, what was it?
We did a lot of things wrong. But first, I want to say this. That was my first time ever hearing ambivert, so I had to look it up to see what it was. Not going to even lie. So, at Living Stream...
I'm glad you said it. I wasn't humble enough to say it. I'm glad someone in the room was willing to say it.
I'm still trying to figure out how to spell it. So I haven't Googled it yet.
AMBIVERT. And there's a growing population of us that are acknowledging that we're actually ambiverts. That's where we can function in extroverted ways, but at our core, we're really introverted.
Got it. Yeah, I just read that. I was like, let me look this up. Yeah, Living Streams, man, we did a lot of things wrong. So our first time doing the first couple of weeks, we did church the same, like I said, and we was pushing people to do watch parties at home, because our order here in Arizona was, you were still at 250 people or less. So what wasn't working, when we were pushing people to have watch parties at home and invite people to your home, people weren't doing it at all. So we didn't see any watch parties pop up online. We asked questions. Did surveys. Nobody invited anybody. So we had, that was one of the worst experience. So we didn't do quite well in that area. And also we had to change our language. We went from, hey, catch us online, to now we will be online. Like, there is no other options at this point. We went from being a building with a digital option to now we're a digital church with an in-person option. So because now we're back at 50 people, we still do that. But other than that, man, that really hurt us in the beginning, was trying to push people to do watch parties at home, and people weren't doing it because they was afraid to bring people in the home, because we thought in mind that people would invite family, the next door neighbor, people they're close to, but people were still like, no, even my wife was a super introvert, and she doesn't want anybody at home. She didn't want her mom, not her dad. She didn't want nobody coming to the house, and she is just loving this season. I'm going crazy, by the way. But yeah, that was one of the big things that really hurt us was not communicating watch parties properly. So now we have some of us like can help online teach. We have online classes where we teach people physically how to host a watch party, what to do, what steps to take, and things like that. So
That's great, Cliff. Cliff, you acknowledged something that we have plenty of mistakes we made at Christ Fellowship. One of them was our language at the beginning, where we framed it as a negative. We said we are not. We framed it with what we're not doing. We're not opening our campuses, and we're not meeting. And it took us a couple of weeks for us to pivot that and make it slightly positive with we're exclusively online. Whoa, something exclusive? Ooh, that sounds beneficial. So we had to do that. And then we're even looking at our language as well with, there's probably no good word for that, but as you reopen, so, were we closed? Well, our physical campuses were closed, but we as a church wasn't closed. Are we regathering? Are we reopening? There's no silver bullet there, but you're right. Language is important as you're framing the guest experience. What should I expect? What am I getting here? That's super helpful. Let's jump towards reopening. So, I'm sure you guys have tons of best practices for your church that you've learned that you're really excited about and proud at. But why don't you drop one on us? Drop one on us so we can all learn your best practice. I'm sure there's lots out there. But you're like, man, if there's one thing that we really figured out we have to do, and we kind of stumbled upon it, and we want to share it to a larger audience that's now listening, what is that one thing as you look to reopen in terms of creating a great first impression for your guests?
I'll start. For us, what my boss has really been focusing on for me to rethink is that this is probably the only time in season, at least for who knows when, that we can actually restart anything. Okay, so meaning like we can actually come back and say if we wanted to scratch the name, we wanted to scratch the team, we wanted to do ushers differently, then we could, right? This is the time that we could do that. So as we're thinking through that, what I've been thinking through is space. So I'm an environments guy as well, so look and feel. So the environments for, at least in good old California, a lot of outdoor seating. We're looking at creating pockets of outdoor seating from 25 to 50 versus just a big patio open space. We're creating pockets in different areas, and we're starting it further out, meaning like our Lake Forest campus, Sam, you've been there, like our parking lots are further out, but we're going to start those pockets sooner versus when you get to the middle of the campus. We're going to start those earlier. So we're looking at that way of like that guest experience of how comfortable am I ever going to be to go inside again. We know that there's a hit and miss with that. Some people are like, bring me church now. I don't need a mask. Guys want church. But some are like, I'm not okay still. What are you going to do for that? So we want to create both experience. So for us, I would say it's more on the look and feel and environment side of guest experience versus the people side that we are really harping in on.
Even our reopening look different now because our governor just said we went from 0 to now to 50 and under, which still doesn't apply to churches and nonprofit organizations, but we still want to abide by whatever executive orders that we set. But our physical campus, we just do prayer and worship. There's no sermon. There's no hosting. You just come in, and at 8 a.m., 9:30, and 11 a.m. is our service time. There, it's just prayer and worship. And then if you come to the 8 a.m., you have the option of watching the 9:30 a.m. or the 11 a.m. or whatever you choose. And we've been slowly opening the doors that way because we figure in this time, in the season that we're in, we just need prayer and we need worship. He's been our pastor for 5 years. If you're part of our church, you heard him speak many times, so you don't need any more messages at the time. We just come in and and it's lovely, man. We've been packed. It's been because we have to do a registration, and we see 50 people registered, and then we see like 200 to 300 people waiting just in case somebody like drops off and things like that. So our people are excited to come back, and our people are excited for prayer and worship. And I think just keeping it a safe environment for them, doing what we need to do, the normal stuff, the hand sanitizer, we got masks, we got gloves and all those type of things. But and social distancing. Yeah, we actually wrote a letter to our governor asking, even though we don't have to, but we asking, hey, our church is way bigger. Our 50 people, we can social distance with about 200 to 300 people in our building, so can we do that? So we're waiting on a response from that to see what he says, if it's an okay. But yeah, our reopening looks totally different. And I think we're not going to like physically have messages on campus for about another 2 to 3 months. We're going to see this out until like October, basically.
Cliff, let me pump the brakes here. Man, I came to learn. You dropped some. So you're telling me you're opening up your services and there's no messages?
No messages.
Dude, I love that. I did not even think of that option. I think that's that's going to be a game changer for a lot of church. You're feeling, what I hear you saying is you're feeling the spiritual pulse of your people.
Yeah.
Is we're good with messages.
Yeah.
We just need to call on the Lord and out of our need and out of our adoration through prayer and song.
Yeah.
Dude, that's game changer. I love that.
So powerful. It gives me chills. It's been so powerful.
Wow.
Lives are getting like changed. We're doing baptisms next week. But it's people we've seen more people give their lives to Christ during these worship times. We've seen so many people come up and for prayer, because we have a prayer team. We don't touch. We just talk as close as we can. And also we're doing these wristbands where it's at the end, it's like a yellow, red, and green. It's like red means no talking, no touching. They just leave. Green means I'm okay to talk. I'm okay to hug. And yellow means like I'm okay to talk, but no touching. So those has been helpful as well. I've seen other churches do it, but that's been helpful as well. People come up for prayer, and it's been like a game changer. Like
that's good, man.
It almost seems like we might not have any, like I said, any messages until October.
You set the bar high there, but I want to throw it up to the rest of our guys. You got something? Can you top Cliff?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and it's kind of like doing speaking after kids or dog tricks. And so here we go. Well, we've been saying that normally we would say that guest services, we want to give our guests an extraordinary experience from the street to the seat that helps them follow Jesus. Well, now what we're saying is we want to give our guests an extraordinary experience that is safe, spacious, and sanitized from the street to the seat. And so really for us, our posture really is to highlight those areas to give people assurance, to give them confidence that when we do reopen, it's going to be obvious. And so I'm creating training videos for our reopening. We are trying to look at reopening our campuses as if we were launching all these campuses all at one time. So the branding has to be the same, the signage has to be the same, properly placed, all those things. So when they come back registering all of that. When they come back with confidence that we are caring for them spiritually and also physically. Now, obviously, this is how we're planning right now, but if it's October, January, things may look different. But that's the posture now. We're trying to just sound those horns to make sure that we're set and ready to go.
Yeah,
go on. I was going to say it's just we decided to over communicate like a lot of things, and one of the reasons for that is not only are we wrestling with all of this unrest with COVID, but also we're in the middle of a senior pastor transition, so we have a little bit of a gap in leadership, and this is quite the season for our church. And so we've just made like a decision. We're going to do a lot of emails to our church, updating them on whatever decisions we make. And when we get closer to reopening, we're going to over communicate what they can expect, what the processes are going to be, what are our procedures, what does kids ministry look like. We're just going to make a decision that even though it might be spammy, we just want to make sure that nothing goes under the rug, that everything's out in the open. Everyone knows what to expect when they arrive, especially guests. Now more than ever, we want to communicate that the church is a safe place for their family.
Yeah, we try to be very intentional to have our people throughout the word normal, even when we do get back, because I think, part of the anxiety that's created in the body of Christ is that everybody just wants everything to go back to normal. And I think for us, at least, we've sort of just landed on the space where nothing is ever going to be normal again, right? And we've sort of used the example of, when many of us can remember pre 9/11 and being able to walk our family members right to the gate, hug them and kiss them and see them, pull off and that kind of thing. And 9/11, of course, changed that dynamic. And so we've just said that COVID is one of those realities for us where we just want our people throw away the word normal. That's going to help reduce some of your anxiety and frustration and the anxiousness to get back to normal, right? And just be prepared for whatever that reset is going to be whenever it happens. And we initially set a date. We were going to come back in June. We never said, Easter or anything like that. We always felt like it would have been, May or June. And so we set a date actually to do June. And of course, here in Florida, once our numbers started going back up, we came back and told our people, we're not going to give you a date right now, guys. Just let's dig in to online and virtual. Let's lean in on that. Let's let God keep breathing on it and blessing it. And we're gonna have fun while we're doing it. While we're doing it, and that's been our story. We've been sticking to it. So
I like that, Christopher. We've I think the Oxford English word of the year is going to be pivot. And what I hear is you're just cutting normal out of your dictionary. You're just taking it out. No more. We ain't doing that. The other thing, I'll throw this in last before we get to the last conversation, is for us, for a great guest experience as we reopen, is we found that we need to do at least a soft launch with our volunteers beforehand to get the rust off. I don't know if any of you guys watched the NBA. I watched last Thursday. It was great games. Pretty rusty. The guys were a little sloppy, a lot of turnovers. And so the same thing with us, right? We're going to get back and we're going to be pretty rusty if you don't do a soft launch with your volunteers first. So when your congregation ultimately comes, they've got a great experience. Okay, last conversation topic. I'm not a prophet, nor am I the son of a prophet, but I don't know if you guys are either. If you had a crystal ball and you were able to project a year down the road in relationships to first impressions and a great guest experience, what would you feel things are going to look differently a year from now? What is a long-term change that is going to be implemented because of the COVID season?
Yeah, I'll jump in first. I know that earlier, I think it was Pastor Sammy that may have mentioned about, folks looking at the website first. And I think all of us, that's a no-brainer for the kingdom now, for churches now. So we know that. I honestly think that, because as I alluded to earlier, there's really two pandemics that are going on. I really think that people are going to do their due diligence on churches now to see, how are you preaching Jesus? How are you going to minister to my kids? How are you involved in impacting the community? And what's your stance on justice issues? I think those four things are going to literally be driving forces for how people will reallocate their faith time, how they will reallocate their commitment to the church, the local church, and that kind of thing. And then, I think on another side of that, those four things are important. But I think once folks get engaged, I really think folks are going to really try to be, passionate about, is there a space for my gifts? One of the things that we found out during this pandemic is that the church does a great job at prioritizing the gifts that are on the platform and with a microphone. We haven't always prioritized the gifts where people's names are not being called and they're not always on stage. And now those folks have been the ones that have sustained the church, right? Prior to the pandemic, a pastor may have never had a conversation with his graphic designer or with his online pastor in a deep way, right? But now, man, that pastor knows the switcher, the camera operator, because that's where the priority has been. And so I think, from a spiritual standpoint and a practical standpoint, it's really forced us in the church to really do what Paul has said, and that is in 1 Corinthians 12, let's honor every gift, because the body can't be strong if we don't prioritize every gift. So that would be how I think things are going to look radically different.
I think for us, I think digital and touchless environments are here to stay. I think figuring out, for us with first impressions and with guest services, the conversations we were having is how can we, what tools or gifts can we give guests just to thank them for joining us on a Sunday, and how we're going to hand out a free T-shirt if they're going to be reluctant to take it, or whatever that is. Could be even a bulletin or a Connect card, could be anything, whatever that piece is or whatever that tool is. we want to give our guests, we're going to have to go digital with it, and we're going to have to go touchless with it. And so I think those are two things that churches really should think through for their next steps and first impressions.
Yeah, I'm going to jump right in behind you there, Jimmy, for sure. I think some of the things that we were doing, collecting, offering, connection cards, physical, I think that's gone forever. We'll only be doing, I think, digital from now on, because with our apps and different things like that, we can navigate it well, and we've seen that functioning now already. And I don't know whether, from a year from now, whether we'll still be serving beverages, coffees, or things like that. I think we may still be not doing that. I think some of our safety signs and procedures will remain in place. I see us having some roles that we've created now, particularly for our reopening or regathering, that we may keep moving forward. Another thing that I think we may see is we've had a huge, and I'm not overstating this, we've had a huge impact with our student and kids services online that has been remarkable. And I believe we may even see some of that continue on, as well as something that we're just now investigating that I think we're going to be seeing in the new year is house churches. We've just started a task group with that, and I foresee us having house churches functioning beyond our reopening.
Yeah, I mean, 100% agree with these guys about the digital. So from signage to connect cards, like you said, having those spaces available for people to just scan a QR code,
Yeah.
text new here, and then fill it out in your seat or right on your phone versus having to go outside and then fill out that card. That's where we're looking ahead for sure and trying to figure all that out. Obviously, it exists, we know that, but we just haven't jumped on too much of that in the digital world of on-campus experience anyway. So agree with that for sure. And then the rest for the year from now, again, we're looking at how comfortable people are going to be in those spaces. So like I said, we're looking at expanding a lot of our connection center, for example. So it's not a crowd in one area. We're looking to put them in different spots, even our coffee. Instead of one main hub, we want to create 4 more. So again, we're just trying to eliminate the mindset of 50 to 100 people in the space that are crowded and a lot of tension in that space where people won't feel comfortable with. So we're actually opening up our patio some more, getting rid of some of the stuff. So that way, again, it doesn't have a fine line crowd control where it feels like a Disneyland on a Sunday morning between both services, but it feels just open space for the comfortability is where I think where we're trying to head. And then where a year from now, that's where people's comfort level probably would be is more towards that than the latter. So.
Cliff, no pressure. You're the last one to go. Come on, man. It's all on your shoulders. What is the world going to look like a year from now? Tell us.
I just have a little different view, to be honest. I personally think once the word vaccine has hit the streets, things will begin to be looking like 80% normal. That's just me. I think, you will be able to serve coffee. If we don't serve coffee at my church, the church is shut down. It'll be over. It will be no living streams.
Listen, we invented the cafecito down here in Miami, bro. We know we gotta have that coffee.
Tide goes down, all of it.
All of it goes down, goes away. But I personally believe that, we will see some normalcy a year from now. But if we don't, I think Kids Church would look a whole lot different. We just launched our Kids Online this weekend, and we had a ton of people log in. And that will be the game changer. Because it used to be, people used to come to the church to hear the message. Now people come to your church for Kids Church. If your church does not have a solid foundation in kids ministry, people are not staying at your church. That's been our biggest experience here at Living Streams and other churches I've been a part of. So I invest in your kids ministry. So we decided to do that, and we put them on an online platform this weekend, and we saw a ton of growth, a ton of people engaged and log in. We kept it at 20 minutes. We kids here. We kept it at 20 minutes, and people are excited. I think that's going to be the biggest change. I don't think people are going to bring their kids to church a year from now if we're still in the same position that we're in.
That's good. Guys, thank you. We are rounding up our time here. Thank you for my panel for joining me. You guys dropped some incredible knowledge. I learned a lot today. I know our viewers learned from us as well. I encourage our viewers, if you want to continue learning, connect to these great leaders, find them on social, ping them with your questions, because I'm sure you may have additional ones. Thanks for watching. Join us again next month, the first Friday of the month, as we talk about production. How do we make an incredible worship experience from the production standpoint? Can't wait to jump into that conversation with you guys then.